What's going on, everyone? So Anthony Edwards is absolutely dominating this FIBA. He is absolutely dominating the World Cup and just has really established himself as the guy for Team USA, right? On a roster with a bunch of stars, he is the superstar. He is the guy that has just been head and shoulders better than everyone else. He already in the NBA is one of the better two-way guards in the league. He can defend the best player on the other team and go drop and get you buckets. And he is really just continuing to blossom before our eyes. And it is crazy to think that he is only 22 years old. 22 years old. This guy is young enough to have been drafted in this year's draft, which is just crazy to me. 6'4", 6'9" wingspan, hyper athlete, just super quick, can play both sides of the ball, do everything. And this guy, I really do believe is going to, I think this year, make that leap into like the top 5, top 10 discussion, right? Like seriously, because he's a guy that gets kind of, left out of the conversation at times. You got the Embiids, the Jokic's, the ADs, the LeBrons, the KDs, even guys like Booker and stuff like that. But you look at Anthony Edwards and it's like, dude, this guy is a 25, 5-5 guy, shoots, 46% from the field, which is great, right? Especially for a shooting guard, a guy that, has the volume and whatnot. And he's a guy that is going into his 4th year, I think is going to continue to take those steps. He's improved every year. He went from a 19-point-a-game guy to a 21-point-a-game guy to a 25-point-a-game guy, or 24.6%, if you want to be specific. He's a legit 25, 5-5 guy with 1.5 steals, almost 2 steals a game, almost a block a game. The guy is very talented. He's been Mr. Reliable on the basketball court. He's played at least 72 games every season. He's averaging, 34 minutes a game for his career, which is a lot. I mean, last year he played 36 minutes, right? This guy, again, 46% from the field, 37% from 3 on 7 attempts per game. This dude's 52% from the field in 2-point range, EFG of 52.8. I mean, this guy is putting up the numbers and the efficiency to be in that conversation. Now, does he fully take the leap into the top 5? It's tough, right? I think it's going to depend on how good Minnesota is this year. Although I think that I honestly think the current roster for Minnesota makes things difficult for Anthony Edwards, right? Because Rudy Gobert comes, and what he does is he basically clogs the lane and makes it harder for Anthony Edwards to adjust and finish at the rim, because that was one of the things that he loved to do. Just explode, get to the basket, finish at the rim, right? Well, when you have Rudy Gobert just kind of standing there because he doesn't have the ability to stretch the floor, it can make things difficult. I don't think that that's a huge thing. I don't think it's something that's, that's really that harmful to him, but it does make him have to, at times, be a little more creative or kind of watch how things unfolding rather than just freely just getting to the basket. He has the ability to play make and make plays for others. Guy can shoot, score at all 3 levels. He has all the tools, all the talent, all the intangibles. But I just feel like Minnesota's roster is a little clunky. But we'll see, right? To be fair, Minnesota, they didn't play a bunch of games together, right? As far as like Rudy and Cat go. Are they able to make it work? If not, I don't know. Like it's gonna be interesting. We'll leave it at that. But sticking to the Anthony Edwards discussion is, if Minnesota is like a top 3 team in the West or something, I mean, there might be a real conversation for it. If he is, if he can take that next step and that next leap, which, again, every year we have seen that improvement, those increments of just improvement, and he's been the leader of Team USA. He's the guy that's really, established himself as the clear best player. And we have seen what guys do when they go play for Team USA and then come to their respective rosters and how they just seem to take that step, right? Because you're not like, who on Minnesota can really challenge Anthony Edwards, right? Like, they don't have anybody that can truly challenge Anthony Edwards, right? He is far and away the best player on that roster. Yes, they have some defensive guys that can maybe make things a little difficult, but you don't have anybody that has a comparable talent level to him that is in that position. But you look at Team USA and it's like, well, he's going up against guys that do night in and night out. You know, he's playing against Brandon Ingram in practices and scrimmages, and Ingram is guarding him. Or, you know, you have a Mikal Bridges or a Johnson, or, you know, going up and going head to head against Triple J every night when he attacks the basket, right? In practices and scrimmages. Like, it's a different thing. You're playing against guys that have the similar talent level to you, rather than like, I'm the best player on the roster by far, and, you know, like, there's nobody to really elevate or challenge me. That's why I think Team USA has that effect on these guys, because they're playing with guys that force them to be better, right? And then you have a guy like Anthony Edwards who just takes that leap. And again, he's 22 years old. And so to think that this year he can't go from, you know, 25 a game to like 27, 28. If he's like a 28, 5-5 and, you know, the best defensive guard or one of the best defensive guards in the entire league, and Minnesota is actually winning games and looking good, I think he has to be in the conversation of top 10, right? Again, I don't know so much about top 5. Again, you got like Jokic, you got Giannis, right? You got Embiid, Luka, right? Many people put in the top 5. KD, many people put in the top 5. But I just, like, what if Dallas continues to struggle? Right? Like, what if Dallas is a play-in team, or, you know, worse, right? Like, does that elevate Anthony Edwards further? Right? It's like, well, Luka can't even, like, Luka is Kyrie, and he can't even get this team to the play, which I actually think that they might be. Right? Like, you look at Dallas and you look at the rest of the teams, and it's like, all the teams that were better than them last year are probably going to be better than them this year. So if the Wolves can kind of make that leap over a couple of these teams, and they could be a top 3 or 4 team in the stacked just juggernaut that is the Western Conference, I don't know, it really does start putting them in that conversation, at least top 10, right? Again, top 5 might be a little tough, right? You know, because we'll see how some of these guys perform, right? How some of these guys really step, like, what does Jason Tatum look like this year? Anthony Davis, does he kind of get back to being that consistent two-way guy and kind of take that leap with this Lakers roster? And then that kind of puts him back in the top 10, right? You got Embiid, how does he look? Jokic, obviously, right? You got a lot of guys. Steph, you know, how is his season this season? Is he able to kind of right the ship with the Warriors this year? Like, all of those things are definitely obstacles, but he's definitely one of, if not the best, like, under 25 guy. Like, the guy is ridiculous, right? Like, the guy, again, because he plays both sides of the ball, right? Like, Luka is ridiculous, but he doesn't play both sides of the ball, right? Like, so if Anthony Edwards can give you the scoring output and kind of get to that, like, 28 to 30 point a game guy, now he's up there with the elite scorers in the league. But a lot of them aren't great defensive guys, right? Like, so can he be that legit two-way guard and just use his size, athleticism, quickness, and everything to really just dominate this season? I really do think he has that level of potential. I mean, this dude is spectacular to watch. Spectacular. Right? Like, And again, at his age, like, you know, the 25 and under that people say, like, who is there that can really truly give him a run for his money, right? Like, again, Luka's what? Luka's 24, I think, still, right? So I guess he's under the 25. But again, like, Anthony Edwards, if he can just get to that, you know, 28 range, there's now a real argument for him over Luka. And if he can lead Minnesota to that thing. Like, look, Luka is, you know, a 38 and 8 guy, which is ridiculous. But again, he can't defend his shadow. Right? Like, and, you know, is he going to be able to help lead his team to the promised land, so to speak, right? But if Anthony Edwards can be a 28, 5-5 guy, right? Yes, I get that that's not 38 and 8, but if he can also shut down the guy in front of him or guard the best player on the other team and make things difficult, I think you got to give him the nod. I do. I think you got to give him the nod because he's just the better two-way player. He's given you close to Luka numbers, but he's also giving you light years better defense. Right? So the impact, like Luka, yeah, Luka drops 30, but if he's giving up 25, right? Like, and then you have Anthony Edwards, who he's dropping 28, but he's keeping his guy to, you know, 10. There's a big difference, right? Like, and so I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not saying let's crown him top 5 guy in the league. I'm not saying let's crown him top 10 guy in the league or anything like that. I do think that there may be a real discussion, though, when all is said and done this season. I really do. Like, I do think he has to get his team into the playoffs. Right? And preferably not through the play-in. But, like, if he can lead them to, like, the second round, right? And, like, let's say you lose to, right? Like, let's say in the first round you play, like, Sacramento or, like, the Warriors or something like that. And you beat them. And then you run into, you know, Denver, the Suns, the Lakers, like those are probably the top 3 teams in the West, in my opinion. If you run into one of those teams and you lose, it's like, okay, like, look, especially if, like, let's say you run into the Lakers and they beat you and then they win the NBA championship. It's like, all right, well, we lost to the defending champions, so we're there. I think you have to put them in that conversation. But I don't know. Those are my thoughts and opinions. And as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Do you think that, yeah, he legit could be in the top 5 conversation, top 10? I think at some point he will be. If it's not this year, I think it's in the next, like, three years, maybe 5 at the most. I think he's in the top 5. I genuinely believe that. I think he's going to be a top 5 player before we know it. I mean, I wouldn't even be shocked if in, you know, 3 to 5 years he's arguably the best player in the entire league. Right, just because of his two-way ability. Right? If he can get to 35-5 and play lockdown defense, he's in the conversation for best player in the league. Right? Or one of the best players in the league. So, I don't know, I'd put it up there. But anyway, again, love your thoughts and opinions. Let me know.